Okay. We welcome you to Guilford's Selectboard meeting. I'm Veranda Porsche. I'm Vice Chair, and this is my first time chairing this meeting, so everybody help me out. Okay, so the first order of business is the rules of procedure. Rusty?
The Select Board has a set of rules and procedures that are for all Guilford public meetings and are now shared with all committees and commissions. They are here in the chat online and published on the town website. These rules request that everyone present at the meeting conduct themselves in a civil manner. Tonight, individuals will have a reasonable time to comment on actions the Select Board is considering. Comments and questions will inform the Select Board's decision-making process. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments will be heard, not responded to. There will be no exchange between the Select Board and the commenter. No questions will be responded to. Any questions will be recorded and responded to in a timely fashion. Additionally, in the room and in the chat online, there is some basic information which includes how to contact Select Board members, how to secure a spot during the community comment portion of the meeting, how to get on the agenda, and how to communicate with the board via mail or email.
Thank you so much, Rusty. And now we'll be welcoming the public. So Barry, in addition to writing your last name, would you put in your appearance and offer us your community comment, please? Let's see. Wait, we're having a little sound issue, so let us get you up to full sound.
Let me see if I'm at full sound.
Oh, you're great. Okay.
Okay, how's that?
Perfect.
Okay,
You
So-
can introduce yourself.
so with your permission, I'd like to, I submitted this as a letter to the Select Board a few weeks ago, right after we had the discussion of speed mitigation efforts in town. And after that discussion, I had some further thoughts, which I wrote as a letter to the Select Board in case I did not have a chance to express it here. But now that I have a chance, I'd like to do so because I'd like to give these thoughts a wider audience. If other people agree with it, then we all can urge the Select Board to go in one direction or another. So I'll basically read what I wrote to you all 2 weeks ago. My comments that I made then focused on the efficacy of the radar feedback speed signs, and I still hold that those are a very effective method. But I also want to put in a word of support for reducing the town-wide speed limit in whatever way the state and local regulations allowed it. The conversation then at that earlier Select Board meeting seemed to put this step onto the back burner when we all talked about the speed signs. And I found that a little bit unfortunate. Knowing that Brattleboro has made a has done this lower speed limit of 25 miles per hour on some or most of their back roads does make the case that it can be done and it should be done. Not only will our neighborhoods be noticeably improved by posting lower speeds, as Zahn said then, a 25 mile per hour sign means people will generally go 35 miles per hour, and that's certainly fast enough. But not only is the neighborhood will the neighborhoods be improved that way, but also in light of our overall goal, as formally stated by the Energy Committee and elsewhere, of energy efficiency and emissions reduction for environmental concerns. One of the biggest producer of destructive human-made emissions is our vehicular use. Limiting that use or finding alternatives is a goal that all public policy is now working towards. Now, I, as much as anyone, can certainly understand that most people cannot consider not driving. But we all can drive slower, which would significantly diminish the impact. A 25% reduction in speed would make our roads safer, our neighborhoods quieter, and our air better. As we noted at that earlier meeting, the process for this might take longer than getting the speed signs up. but we could at least get that process going to eventually increase the benefits which would come from the speed signs. So I urge you, the select board, to keep this idea of town-wide reduction in speed limit on the table. And I urge anybody else who is hearing this, if you agree with me, let's have the select board keep this as an additional alternative to making our roads safer, quieter, and my concept here, our air better also. So thank you very much, and I appreciate the time, and I appreciate anybody who agrees with me to reach out, and we'll figure out how to do it.
Okay, Barry, maybe what you could do is put your email in the chat, so if people will know how to contact you. Would that work for you?
It does, and I'm sorry, I only realized now that my video was off. I usually like to keep it on when I'm speaking. It makes it more pleasant for anybody who's listening. But yes, I'll put my email in the chat, and if people reach out, we can collectively work with the select board or at the select board to the select board to lower the speed limits overall, besides getting those radar signs up.
Okay, well, thank you so much for taking the time and expressing yourself so eloquently. Okay, so the next order of business is changes to agenda order. And we have two postponements on the agenda. The first is in new business, a conservation fund, and the Conservation Commission needs a bit more time to gather information for that. And they'll be coming back to us when they have that. Also, D, Vermont 250th resolution. We received information about this resolution, and they're really asking the towns to do much more than just sign on to a goodwill gesture. And so we're going to postpone this as a talking action statement, and I will reach out to people and see whether there are people who are interested in participating in this. And you'll be hearing more about it in the future. So the next order is approval of the minutes. We have two batches of minutes to approve. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting 10/23/23?
Also make the motion.
Thank you, Rusty. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Tara, thank you. So that was Rusty and Tara. Is there any discussion? No, and so we're all here, right? So all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? No one is opposed. Any abstaining? Right. Okay, so now there's the minutes of the special meeting, 11/6/23. Is there a motion to approve of the minutes?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, I forgot to say aye last time. Okay, Veranda says aye too, so please note that. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll be more serious now. Okay, so yes, and I'm in favor of that as well. Okay, so we voted on the special meeting, right? Okay, terrific.
Good job.
Okay, we're moving on to updates and reports. And so we'll hear from Erica, our town administrator.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So your town administrator has been busy these last 3 weeks since the last select board meeting. We have been holding our budget workshops. We just had the second one last week. And we're now mostly, it goes back and forth. So the way it works is everybody who comes to the budget workshops, and everyone is welcome to come. But the Finance Advisory Committee, and some members of the Select Board and the Town Treasurer and myself. We go through the budget line by line, and if we know certain figures are going to change or stay the same, we put those in the proposed FY25 budget. If not, we make a note that we need to do research and come back to it later. So now we have gotten all the way through the general operating budget, and the next budget workshop will be November 30th, and that one will be at 6:30 p.m. And we will start on the highway budget for that one. And speaking of the highway, another update is that we have a new crew member hired. Yay. Ryan Snow has joined our highway crew. So congratulations, Ryan, and thank you so much. And just in time, because it looks like it's snowing outside. Another agenda item for tonight that I helped with a little bit is the conflict of interest policy, and Tara had some edits, and I just helped her clean that up and make it very apparent what the changes were going to be. So definitely part of my administrative help of the Select Board. I worked with Ellie this week. Anybody that's in this room can see this giant stack of warrants here on the table. This week we are addressing all the appropriations that were voted on in town meetings. So we have our social services from Article 12. There's a good handful of those, and the fire department's appropriation and their capital fund appropriation is all represented here in this week's payable, so it's going to be a big one. And I worked with Ellie to make sure that we had all of those in the warrants. I also helped the Conservation Commission with their new pages on our website, and Linda is here to talk about that a little bit later, but they look great, and the work that they've done is amazing. So this week I have an event. I'm going to Windham County Sheriff's Office to a meeting about, a long-awaited meeting about community policing, regional policing. So it's going to be a different model for Windham County Sheriff's Office. Hopefully that will benefit us and many other towns in Windham County. It's going to, I guess, work kind of like the dog officer, no, the animal control officer that we currently have, and we share with several other towns. And so let's see what they have to say and move forward from there. That's on Wednesday, I think, of this week. I'm going to go talk to them. And one more thing I've been working on is tax exemptions for the local nonprofits. That they're all coming up for town meeting this year. So those articles needed to be looked at and re-presented to the Select Board for adding to this coming town meeting's articles. That's it for my report.
It's a hefty report. Okay, and so I'm surmising that Dan is hunting.
Dan is hunting.
And so in addition to the hiring of the new member of the department, is there anything else from the highway department?
Well, I can tell you they did some grading out here on my road. And I think that's it for now. They're getting ready for winter. They're putting, I think the plows are already on the trucks that need plows, so.
Terrific. Okay.
That's that.
So now the next update and report, I'll invite Linda Lemke from the Conservation Commission. Linda, do you want to come up here and sit where we can have you on camera?
Here?
Yeah. Would that be a good place for?
Yeah.
Okay, Linda.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome. And talk loud, because people have to hear
Okay.
behind you.
I'm reporting on behalf of the Conservation Commission. Last week, after 5 long years of work, we completed and launched our natural resources inventory. We ran an article in the Exempt. It's a couple pages in, but it explains the history, the 5-year history behind this and what we've been working on, especially the last few months to get it ready for sending out to the public. We also ran an announcement in Front Porch Forum toward the end of the week, and I think it was Wednesday that we got everything launched on the webpage. And Erica already explained that she was most helpful in that whole part of it. But we'd like to thank the Select Board first for approving our budget over the last several years. That allowed us to accomplish the components of this work. We'd also like to thank you for approving about 8 years ago that we could have a page on the town website. And a couple years after you did that, we did make a first attempt to put some information up on the website, but through the pandemic it was kind of idle. And getting this the natural resources inventory completed and having Erica's expertise, we were able to do quite a few updates this last week, and we're going to share some of that with you. We'd also like to thank Patty Smith, who grew up in West Guilford, but over the first couple of years of the project, she did a lot of field work and toured a lot of properties in Guilford with landowners, and she really enjoyed that process. The last year and a half, she's been working on the writing. We can also thank Leslie Malone. We're lucky to have her in town because this summer, the report went to her, and she worked on the final design of the report. And the web version of the report has a lot of internal links. So that's all work that graphic designer like Leslie knows how to do, and it's, if you open the report on the website, you can look at the title page and click on whatever, where you're part of town, and it'll take you right to that part. We decided to publish 5 copies of the book in print for people who don't have access to computers. There are 2 at the library for loan. There's 1 for reference at the library for loan, and 1 on the little library cart in the town office that people can come in, sit down and browse through. So Erica is going to show you what we've updated on the website. She has it open to our opening page. Yeah. If you were to go to the town website and go to the boards and commissions drop-down menu, you see the Conservation Commission, and this opening page explains our mission, a few of our projects that we've been involved in the last few years. And this section right here is what we've been updating. The first big link is the natural resources inventory. Another big project has been the ash tree inventory that we did, and we've completed that. But within that page are a lot of links to our reports, our maps that came out of that. So there are some pretty interesting resources on that page if you opened it. Early in our work, we did a lot of work with invasive plants and collected a lot of resources, so we've added them to the invasive plants section. And in the Guilford Trails section, we talk a lot about Weeks Forest, which has been our big trails project, and our maps and guides are all embedded in this. But at the bottom, there are also links to resources for other places you can walk in town. And there are 6 or 7 public lands. You want to open that?
Sure.
Yeah, and we'll go back to. So this is the explanation about the Weeks Forest Trail, getting that ready, and a few pictures. And but down at the bottom are other places you can walk. People forget about Fort Dummer, the little Green River Meadows Trail, Sheppy's Meadow and Green River, Sweet Pond State Park. So all of those links have maps of those places. We hope to add to this, and we had a good discussion at the visioning meeting the other day about other trails that could be developed in Guilford. So let's go back to the opening page, and we'll open the natural resources inventory link. And this again gives a brief background to this work. There's a really nice picture of Patty out in the field collecting data. And a little bit farther down is the link to the inventory itself. It's 82 pages long. We hope people will enjoy maybe just, briefly going through the early sections, but really taking interest in the parts of town that they live in and see what Patty learned about the place that's your part of town. Patty will be doing a presentation at the BBCC in early December, and she's going to show a lot of just the photographs that she took of wonderful places in Guilford. So we'll be getting more information out about that. And in the spring, the Conservation Commission hopes to start walks, field trips that you'll all be invited on, where we can visit some of the special places on Saturday or Sunday mornings. So let's go back to the home page, or the opening page for the Conservation Commission. And one more back. Down at the bottom of this, there's a list of all of us who are on the commission now, a little bit about when we meet. Erica skipped over. You can always go to this page and find our agenda and our minutes from previous meetings. And then we're working on a few other things to add. Erica has them almost ready, but we've pulled together as many archives from our work over the past several years, all the articles we've written for the Gazette, our annual reports to the town report, our announcements for programs that we've had. And then this other section I think a lot of townspeople will be interested in. We have found maps one of the most interesting things in our work, learning about Guilford. And we have a whole bunch of historic maps and Wyndham Regional Commission maps that we use frequently. So we've pulled them all together, and they'll all be listed in this section right here. So we hope people will learn about this section and know that it's a resource. I think that's it for now.
Thank you, that was great.
Are there any questions or comments? I mean, the Conservation Commission also collaborates a lot. I mean, it's just sort of organically, with other groups in town. Right. And it's one of the pleasures of just being a liaison or a fellow traveler to these commissions, to realize how much interplay there is among volunteers, and the reliability of the Conservation Commission is just wonderful, and how curious everybody is. I get to hear about meetings that you go to with other conservation commissions or, groups, and it really sets a high standard for public service.
I can say we've established a good relationship with the Historical Society in the last year. One of the things we do is print copies of the town roadmap, and I'd like people to know that they can always pick up a copy in this is Wyndham Regional Commission's official roadmap of Guilford, and it's a great way to learn about town. So we've included the index for all the road names and a list of ways you could get to know your town better with this map in hand. Look for the cemeteries along the roads. Look at the work the road crew does along the roads. It's fun to get out and walk and learn about town through a map. We're working with the Historical Society, hoping to document some of the cultural resources in town, those old cellar holes and stone walls that people know about. So that's a project for the future, but one that many of us are interested in doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
We'll be back to talk about that conservation fund.
Oh, yes, and please do thank the rest of your commission for us.
Yeah, and I didn't really thank Erica enough. She did a lot of quiet work the last couple of weeks, and we're lucky to have you. You bring a lot of skills to town, and it was a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that was a really uplifting report. Okay, so now, as you can see on our agenda, we're on to old business. And I just wanted to mention that we've had a 180-day staff review of, the hired staff here. And you were part of that?
I was.
Yeah, did you want to say a little something?
Sure. I think we had some very productive conversations. We talked about challenges we're facing, getting additional resources for our staff to help them with their job, and just talked about how the select board can support our town administrator and treasurer. And just expressed our gratitude for the good work that is taking place.
Thank you so much. Okay, and the next budget workshop, I guess that's over to you, Erica.
Sure. Well, the third of 4 already scheduled budget workshops is going to be November 11th, and that's at 6:30.
We already had November 11th.
No, sorry, November 30th at 6:30.
It's 6:30 p.m.
At 6:30 p.m. yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully more select board folks can come.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Working on the evening options.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
So that's the third of 4 that are planned. If we need to do more, we might need to do more, but we might just get it done. We had a very quick one last Thursday to finish up the general budget portion. Everybody join us.
Yeah.
Oh, and there are videos of the ones that have already passed on the town website.
Electrifying watching.
There.
Yes. Okay. No, they are so much background work goes into these budget meetings. I mean, people come prepared, and there's a lot of history of each issue that people can learn even from watching the videos. And I really appreciate that depth of experience that people are bringing to this process. Okay, so we're on C in old business, conflict of interest policy. And so Tara, I'll hand it to you.
Okay. So for this, the conflict of interest policy, I ran out of paper at home, so I'm gonna pass something around, but you might have an old estimate, just disregard that. But I wanted to make a motion tonight to amend the conflict of interest policy and accept it as written, which would be the highlighted areas, and to add attachment A and B. So for the public, there's not very many highlighted areas. I'll probably just go and read them again, and then I'll pass them around to my colleagues. And then attachment A is the questionnaire that I want added, and that I will also be passing around. And then attachment B, I didn't print out, but it's, so you all can see it there. It's the what is a conflict of interest policy that Erica adopted for the town of Guilford. So the idea is that someone will read a conflict of interest policy, answer the questions, read attachment B, and sign. So for the conflict of interest policy, the changes are in Article 3. It reads, this policy applies to all public officers as that term is defined below, and I've added in Article 4, Section E and G. Section E is already on the conflict of interest policy, but it reads, means any board, council, commission, or committee of the municipality. I'll just let you look at that right now. Erica, you know what's going on. Erica helped me a lot with this. So it's the 2 documents.
Yep.
Okay. And G, a public officer, means a person elected or statutorily appointed to perform executive, administrative, legislative, or quasi-judicial functions for the municipality. This term does not include any municipal employees. All employees have their own conflict of interest policy. It is part of documents that they sign and agree to, and it's quite rigorous. It's section 5 in their conflict of interest policy, so that is separate from this.
Sorry, it's just part of the personnel policy.
Personnel
It's not separate.
policy.
Yeah.
It's part of the personnel policy, that's what I meant to say, which they sign.
Yep.
Yes. So then, same conflict of interest policy that was adopted in 2018. And then on the back in Article 14, it reads, this policy shall become effective immediately upon its adoption to the town of Guilford Select Board. And then added is, and recorded as a public record to be kept on file during the interim of an elected term and for 1 year thereafter. And then there's an additional article added. Article 15, all select board members, public officers, and public body members must review the conflict of interest handout, attachment B, that you have, and by the town of Guilford detailing what a conflict of interest is and how it may pertain to their role as a select board member, public officer, or a person on a public body of the Guilford, Vermont municipality. So I would like to make a motion that we adopt the amendments to the conflict of interest policy.
Okay, is there a second to this? Well, I will second it for the purpose of opening discussion. Tara, I really appreciate the work that you've put into this, and I really appreciate your intent, you know, and I really appreciate how you really want people to feel secure and have a process wherein they can understand that we're all on the same page with this conflict of interest policy. My concern about it was originally raised by Sheila Morse, and on further research, I found that there are approximately 65 people or 65 roles, you know, filled by people who are part of town commissions, committees, funds, etc. And that our town staff is already overworked in the hours that they have available to take care of the work of the town, and having to keep track of all of this paperwork and any questions that people have about any of the people who are attached to this seems like a burden that outweighs for me whatever benefit that people have in feeling secure that the people who volunteer in this town are all aware of the important ethical processes. And so based on that, I would vote against it, because sooner or later, for me, this is all coming down to trust. And having been the representative from the select board to two of the commissions anyway, the Recreation Commission and the Cemetery Commission, I feel as if neither of those commissions, neither of them give the members of that commission, they don't have any opportunity to exercise financial responsibilities that would result in a conflict of interest. So that's my thinking, and I'm offering it to you only out of real respect for what you're trying to do. Is there other conversation?
Can I,
Sure. I just wanted
I'd like
to give
to-
other people a chance to speak.
I'd like to have a rebuttal to that.
Okay, well, certainly.
And then I think that so many times there could be a potential conflict of interest. I think so many times there's none at all. And I think that documents these days are very easy to keep, and it can be very simple for someone to read, sign, put it in a folder, get it to the office, put it in a file. And I think that it needs to be fair and across the board, even if somebody is mowing a lawn in a cemetery. And I think that if this doesn't get adopted, then it's going to sow more distrust. And my main point is that if you don't have a conflict of interest, you don't have a conflict of interest. It's cut and dry. It's simple. If you do, you do. That's part of life. And that's what people do when they work for a town, when they volunteer, when they're making decisions on any level. So there's my piece.
Thank you, Tara. Is there other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say that it's already covered under a state statute. So to me, it's being repetitive and creating needless paperwork that we don't need, so,
Town policy as well.
yeah.
Yes.
Town
We do have
policy
a
also,
conflict of interest.
so it's there.
That exists.
And I would also add, I'm not in support of this amendment. I do think it discourages community volunteers. I think it's an unnecessary burden on the town administrator. And I do think it's redundant. And I just think it's counterproductive. Ultimately makes governing more challenging.
I guess since this is a vote, we should open this up to community comment. Is there anybody in the room or online who would like to offer a comment? Rick, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, Rick Zamor, Ashworth Road. I'm new to this kind of, but last time I heard about this, it was going to be a financial disclosure requirement for town employees, and I gather that's been let go of. It's no longer part of the policy. To me, it sounds like anyone in a town position, whatever it is, except for staff, is being asked to read something and sign a document saying that they've read it and understand it. I mean, is that the extent of what people are being asked to do? Because if so, that does not seem onerous to me. I mean, you're talking about 65 pieces of paper that have to be tracked annually, and it's, maybe it's a solution in terms of a problem, but I think there is a problem in town with perception, and that this might help allay that. But again, I'm not nearly as aware as you are of the impact on town staff and employees.
There is, so the attachment A asks questions. It asks to list your current employment and entities which you're an officer or director. And then do you or any of the above plan on entering a financial agreement with the town of Guilford? These are yes or no questions. Have you or anyone described in Article 4A1 of the conflict of interest received a salary, wage, professional fee, grant, consulting fee, or other compensation or reward from the town of Guilford in the past 3 years? Then it's a yes or no. I mean, and if you answer yes, you give details. If you answer no, you don't give details. And yes, that's my point too. 65 pieces of paper I don't think is that difficult to keep track of, especially when there is an issue with this past select board of them not keeping documents. And so I think that it's just in the best interest to document things and to have a level playing field and have people have to disclose whether they have a conflict of interest or not.
Is there anybody else who has something that they'd like to say about it? Yeah. Steve, want to introduce yourself?
Steve Lemke, River Road, Embry River. I'm in favor of this. I'm in favor of it for a couple of reasons. One is the perception that's going on right now, but I don't think we should be bullied into creating a lot of administrative work for people or something just because one or more people think it's that way. But when I thought about it a lot, and I've been at most of these meetings when these discussions were happening, and I think they've been thoughtful discussions. But maybe there's gradations to this too, because I'm the floodplain administrator for this town. And my personal feeling is that I should sign a conflict of interest policy because I can rule on certain things that are important to people, whether they're letters of get sent to FEMA or not and things like that. And I'm going to go home and talk to a woman who's on the Conservation Commission because she missed that. And Linda's not against doing it, in the sense of sort of going through with it and see. So I guess my suggestion would be to try it. I asked at the last meeting that this came up, have you thought any more about what happens when somebody doesn't sign it? Are they off, and if it's immediately in place as soon as it's adopted, then what's the time frame for somebody, for a commission that meets once a month or, once a quarter? When do these people have to sign it and by when? And if they don't, what happens? That's where I think you run into the nuances of this that will come back to be haunting. Not the keeping 65 pieces of paper in a file, but tracking down people who meant to sign it but didn't, were gone on vacation and so forth. So I guess I'm at least in favor of having it applied to certain positions in town, if not all positions. But I don't think it's a huge burden. I'd be curious to know if people really would stomp their feet and say, I'm not going to be on the Recreation Commission because I have to sign this. And once you've done it once, you sign it again the next year, unless something's changed, it's pretty much just, it's standard operating procedure.
I'm wondering whether, Erica, you would feel comfortable to talk about the administrative impact of this.
Sure. Well, I see how hard it is to get 5 select board members all on the same page and all their paperwork. And Tara, I have some paperwork for you to sign right now that I didn't get from you. So it's a lot of chasing. I can just foresee lots of time spent not just filing the papers, but requesting the papers from people. And it's personnel folders that maybe they should exist. Not every person on the rec commission has a folder in the personnel file right now. Those folders would need to be. We're talking about folders, so that's silly. But it's not just committees, commissioners signing a piece of paper. It's work for chasing that down and making sure it's all accounted for all the time.
But it's also already covered by state statute and the town policy, correct?
Yes, that's right. It's just the financial disclosure piece is what Tara's asking for, I think, and that isn't explicitly covered. The state may be heading this way eventually anyway, but we don't know yet what they're gonna say.
Well, there was a member of a different commission, the Conservation Commission, who would refuse to sign it because that person didn't feel as if it was necessary, and that sooner or later the service on the commission would, well, as I said, that it would come down to trusting the people who have volunteered to do this work. And I noticed that the Supreme Court has adopted a code of ethics. And on the news, when somebody said, and what is the enforcement of this? I don't know if anybody else heard that, that there's no mechanism for enforcement. And so if somebody decides that they don't feel they want to sign this, does that mean that they can't serve on a commission? You know, I'm not ready to tell people that that's what I think should happen. I think that people hold themselves to a very high ethical standard. And I think that when people make mistakes, you know, as the Selectboard has, I mean, just in my time on the Selectboard, there have been both things that we did poorly, things that were maybe straight out mistakes. And there were also a lot of accusations of conflict of interest, which I believe were utterly
groundless and were disruptive to the work of the Selectboard. And so you have people making mistakes, and you have people being angry. And I just don't feel that this is going to help me feel more secure that our town is on better footing, and that if people have individual concerns about what people are doing, then they can go to all these commissions, have public meetings. People could go to any one of those meetings and say, please explain why you're doing this, or just what's going on here. They could even volunteer for these commissions and help guide the process of it. But I also agree with Michael that a lot of, some of our groups are really hard-pressed to find members. I know the Energy Committee can use more members, and there was a lot of talk at the visioning meeting about town trails, and there's been a long time need to amplify that work, and making just another barrier to it feels like a message I don't want to send, especially because we operate under state statute. If the state statute changes, then this, I would accept that burden. Or maybe by that time I won't be a town volunteer.
I wish Ozan was here to offer his opinion.
Well, I'm not sure when Zan will be back from his trip. Do you know when he'll be back?
He'll be here for the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I would just vote on it now.
I'd like to vote on it too.
Well, there's definitely going to be a message sent.
Well, I've given my message, and if people want to call me up and find out more about my real message, not an imagined message, I welcome people to call me. My telephone number, my email address, and those of the other people on the commission are right here. So, are people ready?
I'll just step in and say that I felt bullied about this all along. And I think the original conflict of interest accusations were bogus. And completely unfair, and this has just spiraled out of control, and I'm ready to just stand up for good people that volunteer in this community.
Then you guys
This has
weren't
largely
here.
been brought forth by just angry people that, from my perspective, are not community minded. And I've had enough. I'm ready to move on.
Is there any other comment from people in the community about this? Okay, well, so a vote in favor of the motion.
The motion is to adopt the amendments to the conflict of interest policy that Tara has made. So what that will involve will be to just agree to her edits here, and then it will be drafted up and it'll be signed at a later date.
I don't understand. I mean, are we voting on?
You're voting to adopt Tara's changes. Yep.
So
Yes,
a
ma'am.
yes vote would mean that we would require people to sign this form.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the main change, and there's a number of changes, but the committees and commissions added to the financial disclosure form, I think is the big one, and to sign the actual policy itself, which would be a new thing.
Okay,
So
so
those are the
all
main-
in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the motion has been defeated. And once again, I invite people who have a problem with this to get in touch with me, because I'm comfortable to talk with people about it. Okay, so the next item on the agenda in new business is B, tax sales. So I believe, Erica, you have the update on tax sales.
I have a secret weapon. That's Ellie.
Oh, Ellie, will you please come here and talk to us?
I think.
Thank you, Ellie.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to you about some tax sale information.
As everybody
Delinquent
knows,
taxes.
Ellie is
I'm
the
sorry.
town treasurer.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry,
No,
Ellie, I
that's
didn't
okay.
mean to interrupt.
that's okay. So I wanted to just give you an update of where we stand with delinquent taxes. So as of today, the total amount of delinquent taxes is $424,944 and change. I do know that does not include today's mail, and there are several checks in the mail today. So that'll bring it down a wee bit. And in terms of kind of a summary, we've got over $20,000 due. We have 5 taxpayers in that category. We have 11 taxpayers that are between $10,000 and $20,000 due. We have at least 4 folks who are 7 or more years. We have about 7 folks who are between 4 and 6 years overdue. We have 12 folks that are 2 or 3 years due, and we have 47 folks who are just this year in taxes that are overdue. And some of those reasons are understandable. They still are late, but some new homeowners who did or did not get their escrow account set up, or didn't get their tax bill because they purchased after April 14th and the tax bill is still in the old owner's name. A number of things. We have a few folks who have passed away and their delinquent taxes are currently in probate court. and the estates are trying to be settled. So all in all, there's about 75 properties currently delinquent. So that's just a kind of an update on numbers. So we haven't done a tax sale since about 2017 or 18. And it was a long while before that one occurred. And I was asked to talk about what the delinquent tax collector would think about in terms of who might go up for tax sale. So there's several different things to take into consideration. First and foremost, the number of years that somebody's delinquent. Obviously, the more years you've been delinquent, the higher on the list of a possibility of going to tax sale is. Also, the total amount due. I think in our current policies that we have anybody over $1,500 with taxes due could be considered. But I think as we go through and look at this first round of tax sales, we'd probably be looking at those folks who are over $15,000 taxes due. Another thing to look at is, do they have a payment agreement in place with the delinquent tax collector? If they do, is it a verbal one? Is it a signed one? And then are they actually following through with what they agreed to pay? Because once a taxpayer, whether the agreement is verbal or signed, if they don't follow through with what they said they were going to do, then any agreement is null and void. So then looking at the extenuating circumstances, which I've kind of mentioned, like has the owner passed away? Is the estate in probate? Things like that to consider. And in some instances, has there just been any communication at all with the delinquent tax collector? So those are things that we need to kind of figure out the criteria that we're going to use for the first round of tax sales. My goal as delinquent tax collector is to aim for 4 to 5 tax sales a year until we can reduce the amount of taxes due just down to 2 or 3 years behind. That is a humongously ambitious goal. And it's also will take a lot of work on the part of the staff here. But also, we will need to engage a tax attorney. So one of the reasons I'm coming forward tonight is to request from the Selectboard the ability to engage a tax attorney. And really, for this first step, it would really be to talk to the attorney about the tasks that need to occur, because this is a very legal process and you have to follow the process very strictly, and also create a timeline for the tax sales. I remember the last one that we did, because I worked in the office then, and we started to gather the documents that we needed this time of year. We were advised by the attorney, you never do a tax sale during Christmas. Just not a good thing, not even January. But then, there's several things that need to occur. There's documentation that we need to, as the town, we need to make sure that the taxpayer gets their first delinquent bill, that they receive information about abatement, and they also, what's the third thing? Get a copy of our policies for delinquent taxpayers. So those are the first and foremost. And then we have to start gathering documentation, like are there mortgages or lien holders for that property? And one thing I discovered last time is it's actually often in the fine print of mortgages that you must pay your taxes. I never knew that when I had my mortgage, but it was interesting to find out, you know, and we will notify mortgage or lien holders, and sometimes those banks step up and say, how can we help? And help the taxpayer. Maybe they don't have an escrow account to pay their taxes and they could help set up something. Or maybe they could somehow delay a payment on the mortgage or add it to the mortgage or something like that. So one of those things. So what I'd like to ask the select board is, can we do that first step of talking to a lawyer who would be willing to work with us and help us set up, review the tests that we have at hand in our policies, and also figure out a time frame that would work for both us and for the lawyer.
And the reason that we would like to use a different lawyer than our town attorney, who is based in Burlington, is just that I think it's, Ellie and I agreed that it's best to have a local attorney for these because it's a very local business, and it's going to be pretty hands-on for Ellie and the staff here, and just a local person could probably do that more efficiently. Maybe not more efficiently, but that's just the experience that we've had so far in the town office. And we worked with Jody French before for this, but Jody's no longer an attorney, so we're looking elsewhere. And we've got a pretty good idea of who we'd like to use.
Is this a time to ask a question?
But you can certainly ask a question, sure.
What is the impact on the rest of the Guilford taxpayers of delinquent taxes? Just to spell it out.
Well, I mean, the longer we have delinquent taxpayers and the larger the amount of the delinquent tax, it does, in the long run, affect our budget. And we all kind of share that burden of, you know, having $400,000 is a chunk of money.
Yeah.
I will say the trend that I remember from before is you'll have a big chunk of delinquent taxes right after the tax bill is due. And that I would say within 6 months, that number jumps down quite a bit because some people are like, I didn't realize the tax due date, so they'll come in and pay. Or they realize how much the penalty was and not be happy with that, and they don't want that to happen again, and they don't want the interest to be accumulating because there's a 1% interest that occurs every month. So payments will go down. The other thing is once taxpayers realize that there's going to be a tax sale, there's certain steps we have to take. One of them is that we have to notify the delinquent taxpayer that we are looking to engage an attorney. Once we've whittled it down to the 4 or 5 that we think are going to go to tax sale. And then the taxpayer has about, I think it's 15 days to respond, and either they can pay up in full by the specified date, or they will go to tax sale. I can distinctly remember the last time we did this, we had people pay up quite a bit before the deadline. If they didn't pay up in full, they would say, okay, I really need to make a payment plan, and it's going to start right now, and we're going to make that so it doesn't occur.
So I had a question about the process.
Yeah.
So once you talk to the attorney, then the town's responsibility is reaching out to the delinquent taxpayer prior to an attorney's letter and saying, this is what we're going to do.
Yes.
And then you have 15 days. If they don't comply within 15 days, then the attorney is on board, and then do they get yet another chance, like if there is extenuating circumstances? I just know, like with renters, trying to get renters out with an attorney, like sometimes people can't get their house back for years. So I know that this is probably more serious, but if someone were, you know, like, I have cancer, can I have 3 months? Is that something that they can work out a plan, or is it like, you got to this point and we're done?
Working out a plan is a big plus. Because then if you've got a plan in place, and, you know, I had someone come in the other day. They've got a large amount of taxes due. And I explained to them the exact things that I just said to you. We're gonna look at how much taxes due. We're gonna look at how many years you haven't paid your taxes. We're also gonna look at, do you have a payment agreement? And I was like, once you make the payment agreement, you gotta stick to it.
Right.
So if they're doing that, if they've come in, signed an agreement, you know, and have thought what they can realistically provide us every month, that's going to be a point in their favor. You know, you can't take one of these criteria and just use that. You have to look at the whole picture.
Right.
But so that would be a good question to ask the attorney. You know, how.
And I'm sure
do they come off the list if they come in and make an agreement? If we set up a time-sensitive situation or an agreement, maybe, yeah.
So there's a lot of different circumstances for different people.
A lot of, yes.
You know, it's a kind of a personal thing, and you'll navigate that as you go.
Yes, but that whole time too, there's still, you know, that original penalty that happens on when they're first delinquent, and then there's that interest on any balance that's out there. So that keeps accruing whether you have an agreement or not, until it's all done. There's a point too, one of the, I want to say laws around, but I'm not sure it's quite a law. It's best practice. It's probably actually a regulation that, you know, after you engage an attorney and you set a deadline for, you know, if you haven't contacted us, haven't done anything by April 15th, let's say, you can't even make a partial payment. It's either the full payment or you're going to tax sale. If you go to tax sale, then the property owner still has a year to redeem that property. So we might go through.
Excuse me, redeem it after the tax sale?
They can
or
buy it back.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
They can buy it back after the tax
It's a
sale?
law that
Whoa.
if you go through the steps of a tax sale, the money from the highest bidder, the person who gets the property after the redemption, and if it's not redeemed, that money goes into an account. It accrues interest, and it stays there for a year. If the taxpayer can come and pay off all the money that's due, which would be the taxes due, the penalty and interest due, and any additional charges that it's cost the town to get to this point, if they can pay that all, then they can redeem the property. They have a whole year to do that. And if that happens, they technically own that property through that whole process. But then the bidder gets the money that's in the account that we've been holding, and it goes back to them. So the bidder can't go in and start doing something to the house or the property. They have to stay off the property. It's not technically theirs until after that year is up. And if somebody has tax liens on top of the town taxes being delinquent, then the federal taxes get first priority, and they actually have an additional 120 days to redeem beyond the first year. So,
Wow.
there's a lot of rules and regulations and processes to go through in order to get to the point of tax sale, and then once the tax sale happens, that year that you have to wait for the property to either be redeemed or not. And then the property, if it's not redeemed, can get deeded over to the new owner. It's,
All the reason for a tax attorney.
yes, to make sure that every I is dotted and all the T's are crossed, that we're following the process that's legal, right down to how we have to advertise, how we have to give notice to the owner and to the public and everything else.
Right.
So it's quite a process. Plus, we have to make sure that we document everything we do, the conversations we have with the taxpayer, the agreement, whether or not they've paid, which is just simple bookkeeping, but yeah. So it's a big process. It's big time consuming.
Thank you.
So, yeah, really. So Ellie, does
Yeah.
the treasurer actually go after, like contact delinquent taxpayers if they don't get in touch with you? Is there sort of one point that would make you call them up and try to work out a deal with them, or is the responsibility theirs to?
It's really the taxpayer's responsibility to contact me. I think on the bottom of every delinquent bill, there's an invitation to do so. And sometimes I'll write that on delinquent tax bills, like haven't seen a payment, what's going on? And that's really the role of the delinquent tax collector, which I happen to be both. And it's also why I'm hoping that, we can get a little more help in the office, because it's a big job to keep track of all that.
And those notices go out monthly.
Delinquent tax notices go out every month, yes. And the first one, it's in November 1st went out already. So there's folks' first notice, and the next one that goes out will have the information about abatement and what our tax policy is. And that can also go onto the website.
Well, I really appreciate your detailed report on this, because a lot of that I hadn't known before. So I'd like to propose the motion for the select board to authorize is it the town or the delinquent, authorize the town to hire a local attorney. Is that the right motion?
Yeah.
You want to tweak
Right,
the
In
language?
the tax sale process.
Just to have those preliminary discussions, yes. To get a tax attorney in here and talk with us about that. There is an official process by which the select board will get the list of 4 or 5 properties that we would like to put up for tax sale, and then you can vote. I think you need to vote to approve us to do that, to
Okay,
actually go forward with a tax sale. But
Okay.
now it's just to help us get an attorney and get the ball rolling.
okay, so do you have the best wording for this motion?
No, yours sounded pretty good.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Are you taking comments?
Yes.
What?
I just have a
Taking
question.
comments?
Are you taking comments on the
yes.
motion?
Oh, I'm so
There was a
sorry.
motion and it was seconded.
Yes,
That was-
that
We've had our
was, Steve, I'm so glad you're
The
here.
new railroad. I think the issue comes up too, I can't remember this, the names, years, amounts of delinquent taxes in the public, and the people were always listed in the town report. Is that still in there?
I believe so. It is public information.
Okay, so it is public information now. Okay.
Yeah.
My feeling, I was involved with the 2017 or whatever because it was an environmental disaster at the same time that it was a tax
Oh,
sale.
that's right.
So an extenuating circumstance in some cases is what's happening to the property while the taxes aren't being
Oh,
paid. You know, this
interesting.
vision of people just sitting inside and not being able to pay is not necessarily always what happens. It's a situation where the property's been semi-abandoned and the propane tanks are sitting there and the water's
Right.
coming up and stuff. So it is complex and it's very difficult. But I think if you don't start, that number is just going to be $600,000.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your comment.
I have a question. I'm in favor of this, but I am curious to know, do you have this in your budget Or do we know what it would cost? Do we have a preliminary idea of
Well,
hourly rate? Or
The cost of a lawyer, and we can recover because it's part of the final cost that goes, the bidder needs to know that this X amount of dollars is what they owe in taxes. This is what it's going to cost us for fees for the lawyer and whatever else. And that should be part of the total tax sale. So we should be able to get some of that back. But also in terms of delinquent tax position, the 8% penalty that's collected actually goes towards, it goes into the pot to help pay the delinquent tax collector.
And at the last
So-
budget meeting, I didn't mean to interrupt
yeah,
you.
no, please go ahead.
Oh, at the last budget meeting, we estimated a line item for the local attorney. And you can see that when you look on the spreadsheet. And it was explained that all of this, it's allocated and then it is restored. So it's a somber and rare process. And I mean, one of the things, this is just speaking personally, that to encourage a delinquent tax collector, in some instances, the tax collector can get personal benefit out of collecting the taxes, and the treasurer that we have, not naming names, has decided that that isn't going to be part of the process or the incentive. So are there any more comments? Yeah, Rick.
One comment and question. As a former paycheck to paycheck guy who once ignored notices from the IRS until my bank account was frozen, and at that point I was only 15 years away from having my property seized in Guilford. Had that continued, I understand the hardship that people can go through, but I'd like to see this money collected. But my question is, if there's a tax sale, does the buyer have to pay the full amount that's owed on the property, or can they get it for 40 or 50 cents on the dollar? Or does it go to the highest bidder no matter what the bid is?
It goes to the highest bidder, but that bid has to, at a minimum, meet pay all the taxes that are past due, plus pay all the interest, penalty, lawyer's fees. There's a whole list that the state puts together in terms of what is allowed to be part of that final figure.
Thank you for your question.
I have to say, years ago, when I first moved to Guilford, I was actually on the delinquent tax list.
That was too.
Yeah, and I know what that feels like.
It's no fun.
It's no fun, and I haven't been on it since, but sometimes those things happen. And hopefully, we're able to work with people before we get to 2, 3, 8 years overdue. And we have a couple of those.
Well, that was really interesting news about how sometimes the bank can work with the delinquent taxpayer. I had never heard of that before, and it's good that it's at least one avenue to reach out. So, okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Okay, we have passed the motion. And Ellie, thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
so,
Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you, Ellie.
really. Okay, so the next item is C, tax exempt organizations. It's a discussion, and the Brook Community Center is here represented. Oh, Yes.
Right. Yes, I'm here as a member of the executive committee.
Oh, great.
Broad
So
Brook
why don't you just
Community Center.
take a chair and introduce yourself to the
Hi.
audience?
Hi.
Hi, I'm Greg Stein. I'm the treasurer, or not the treasurer, sorry. Ooh, I'm not suggesting I want to be. The secretary for the Brattleboro Community Center. And I just wanted to request or read this statement. Shall the to put this on the
warning.
Shall the town vote to exempt from taxation for 5 years? That's from April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2029. The real estate owned by the Brook Community Center Incorporated.
Thank you. And so this is just a discussion, not a vote. Do we just put this on the warning, or do they have to petition?
This is their petition. So these
But
are.
they don't need signatures?
Right, no, they don't.
Oh, okay.
If they want to do it this way, they could do it that way. But they don't need to, because these tax exemptions have been kind of traditionally voted on by the town. And so they can be select board promoted articles. And so all of them are coming up in 2024 for a vote by the citizens. Sorry. Right, so I suggest that each organization be staggered in time. So the Brook Community Center will be, I think, I have my documentation here, for 5 years. And then some other ones will be 4 and some other ones will be 6. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 5 tax exempt organizations in town. They get their property taxes exempt, voted by folks, and that's just traditionally been something that we have done, but they've never all come up at once. So I requested all of them to appear before the select board and just plead their case.
I see. So in our discussion, are we supposed to hear about all the good things that the Brook Community Center does?
Definitely.
Oh, okay.
It was my understanding that that was not necessary, but that I am prepared to do it nonetheless.
Well, why don't you tell us the 3 best things about the Brook Community Center? We'll sigh.
In the interest of brevity, the Brook Community Center fulfills a need that the town has to have a single building which can be used by the community for the community for a number of different things, including things like dances, and we're also in an emergency center for if we're attacked by biological or chemical pathogens. To just come on down to the Brook Community Center, and there will be people from the government there handing out pieces of cake and so on. We're the stewards of the building that was traditionally covered by the Grange, which traditionally had a tax exemption. So I think that.
Okay, well, we've certainly had plenty of opportunity to appreciate lighthearted and really serious times in that building. So we appreciate your coming to us when requested. And we're all agreed that we will put this on the town warning as advanced with the gravitas of the Guilford Select Board. I think that's fair to say.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Good to meet you.
Thanks for
Thank you. Eric, can you tell me, are all of the the group's 503Cs, are they all nonprofits except for Comcast, the utilities?
You know, I don't even know if we need to vote on the Comcast, honestly, I need to look into
Okay.
that, but yes.
Okay, so they're all
For sure. Well,
nonprofits?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, even the fire department is.
Okay, so are we ready to move on? Our next item is E, staff reconfigurations. And so we'll hear from Erica.
Okay. We have something a little different going on in the town office now than when we started out a couple weeks ago. Ellie is no longer assistant town clerk, and Danielle is no longer assistant treasurer. So we are in search of, and this is Danielle's responsibility, a assistant town clerk. This is Danielle's authority to appoint her own assistant town clerk, and she will do that. And we are in the process of developing a job description and posting a person on hiring notice. We're hiring an office assistant to help Ellie and to help me. So right now, I believe we have a budget for about 10 hours a week. So hopefully we'll increase that a bit with the next budget. And we're talking about all that. And so let's see. The reasons that Ellie and I need help, Ellie just described, and you hear in my reports all the time about all the activities that we have to do. Public records requests are increasing. Conflict of interest things will probably never stop needing to be addressed. Delinquent taxes is a big, big one. And the tax sales that we are about to undertake, that's going to take a lot of staff time too. So these are necessary positions. The assistant town clerk is a statutorily required position. So Danielle's definitely got to get someone to fill that position. And I believe that Ellie and I could very heartily use an assistant too. So that's basically what's happening. For the town office, what this means for now is that there's nobody, if Danielle is out or at lunch, there's nobody to do town clerk stuff. So we've put on the website that town clerk is out of the office from 1 to 2 each weekday that the office is open. So that's the change there. And I believe that's it.
And so this is a discussion, but it's not something we need to vote on, correct?
Right.
Right. Well, it's great that some more help is on the way and that we have funds for it. And so
Yes.
the concept is that you and Ellie will be able to share one person's work, one person to do.
Yeah, that's the hope. I mean,
Okay.
we can
So,
be very flexible, of course, but
right. Okay, well, thank you for that update. And so now we're moving on to the next action item. There's a request for a motion to cancel the Selectboard meeting on 2 days after Christmas. That's 12/27/23. So I'd like to move that we cancel that meeting and have Joy for the Season in whatever form you take it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Does anybody
This
from
is-
the public?
This is minor, but one of the dates that you offered is 12/27. So if anybody picked that for the nonprofit tax exemption thing, you want to make sure.
that's right. They haven't yet, and I will
Rescind that.
resend that. Yeah, so there will be another select board meeting in early January, which is, I've plenty of time to get articles in and do that business that needs to be done.
And thank you for your diligence, Steve. Okay, are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
All in favor of that cancellation, say aye. Aye. Any nays, abstentions? Excellent. Then it's time for the warrants. Tara, are you up for the warrants?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion, I move to
That we pay,
accept
would that we pay the
that we
following
pay, I always forget this.
No, you're
We pay
doing great.
the following
warrants?
warrants as written. So payroll week 10, 29, 23 is $7,200.96. Payroll week ending 11/5/23 is $7,122.94. Payroll week ending 11/12/23 is $12,454.13. There is an expense warrant number 2409 for $746,626.58. Anyone hear that? Expense warrant number 2409F for $26.50. Expense warrant number 2409V for $1,353.62. And expense warrant number 2409R for $13,041.39. The total is $787,826.12.
Thank you, Tara. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, is there any conversation about this?
Yes, this is a big one, and Erica broke some stuff down for me. A lot of it were appropriations voted on at town meeting day in 2023, and that amount, the total for all those appropriations is $328,921, but some of them have already been paid. So the total that went into this was $309,485, as well as the $60,000 for the Guilford Historical Society, the ARPA grant. So that is a big chunk of $369,485. And there's also there's another big chunk for paving. So $316,561.57 went to Basin Brothers for paving. Then we had line striping, and we had, we did have a grant for that for $156,000. So there was $130,000 in the highway budget for this already there. And it leaves $34,464.42 to come out of the highway surplus. There's also a county tax payment for $30,447. So this was big, but this is the time that all of those appropriations are due, and this is also the time that we pay out after doing any road work.
Well, thank you so much for that keen report. Okay, Ellie.
Just one other comment. In the warrant that Tara read, was the date, and it said R after it. Those signify the refunds that have been given to taxpayers that overpaid for some reason or other. I'm not 100% sure it needs to be in a warrant form, but I wanted to let you know about those because it's a good chunk of
The
money.
13,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
There will be additional refunds going out to several people. We had instances where the bank paid, the escrow account and the individual paid because that we didn't get the money on time and they knew the tax date was coming, so they went and paid. Or, several different circumstances where there was overpayments. Or they filed late for their homestead declaration, which changed the download from the state and their state payment and things. So that was like an ongoing, every week, somebody's tax bill changed. So, so those refunds will need to go out, and I've been contacting anybody who's got an available credit and asking if they want to get a refund check, or, because it is their money, or if they'd like to put it towards 2024 taxes.
Oh,
So,
so wonderfully clever of you.
well, I think that's something that actually Penny Marine started.
Well, that's
so
a
it's
great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so are we ready to vote on the warrants? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, you're going to abstain because?
A small project in this building was done by my employer.
Okay, so will you please record the one abstention?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, conflict of interest at work. Okay, well, thank you so much for passing that. Let's see, was there any correspondence? Anybody, letters?
Well, there was this communication from DV Fiber, which I think we addressed this previously in another meeting, but they sent another notice. They're having a public hearing to go over their annual report, financial statements. I think it's sort of a pro forma thing, but DV Fiber wanted everybody to know, and they sent this to every select board locally, and it was last week, and there's a video that you can watch on their website about it.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Madam Chairman, could I offer something on that? I know that as the floodplain administrator, today Zahn received a copy of the same letter that I got, which was FEMA has been doing a lot of work over the last 4 or 5 years, meetings, and they've come to the point now where they're ready to redo the floodplain mapping.
Oh, my
Okay.
goodness.
So it was sent to Zahn, and it was sent to me, and it has a 30-day response time starting tonight at midnight. Right, so when you say, I'm not certain when Zahn is gonna come back, someplace in Zahn's inbox or in folder, addressed only to him and copied to me, was this letter from FEMA. And it has some legs to it that go on from now to 6 months, about 10 years from now. So.
Well, thank you. That's really important to know.
Yeah, I'll keep my eye out for that.
I can bring you a copy.
Oh, good. I'm sure Zahn will forward it.
But he's not coming back for 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks of your 30 days.
Great.
No,
Comment period.
I think he will come back before that. I'm not positive when he's coming back, but
Okay,
he's been very responsive to emails, even though he's on vacation.
imagine. Okay, so now it's the recitation of actions from previous meetings. Okay, so we approved minutes, tabled finance committee discussion, appointed Tammy to the finance advisory committee, authorized Erica to get traffic study by Wyndham Regional, approved the MOU for the library, Stony Hill Road public hearing, tabled conflict of interest, approved historical society ARPA request, approved purchase of 4 radar speed signs, and approved the warrants. Actions taken tonight, well, that really always empties the house. Okay, so we approved 2 sets of minutes. The conflict of interest policy motion was defeated. We approved the motion for tax sales. We approved the cancellation of the 12/27 meeting. We approved the warrants. And was there anything else I have forgotten? Okay, so that takes care of that. And I guess the next action to be taken is a motion for adjournment. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Did we do the actions we did tonight?
Yeah, I just said,
Okay, I'll
yeah,
catch up.
I'll second.
okay, all in favor of adjournment?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.